Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Outlook in the DeFi Dojo. I am Groot, aka Rob, and today we're going to discuss the markets, charts, and what we might expect in the week to come. If you are a premium Discord member, you are watching this live and have the ability to ask me chart requests when I'm done going through all of the majors and telling you what I think. I'm not always right, but I am right more often than not, and that is helpful to a lot of people. We make money here. We don't win them all, but we win more than we lose, and that's the goal. With proper risk management and understanding how to read charts, you can do much better than just following people blindly on, YouTube or Twitter. So that's what we aim to do here, is to educate. If you'd like what you see, you can hit the subscribe button. Please like this video, and there will be links in the description if you'd like to join the Discord. You can do that as well. The Weekly Outlook goes out every Sunday night. We do this live every Sunday, and for the first 3 days, the video is private. I will now start releasing this video on Wednesdays, and then that way I can get a little bit of YouTube exposure, but yet the people who are premium members get the information first. By the time you get to Wednesday, the information's usually kind of not as useful anyway. But anyway, here we go. DXY, this is the dollar strength. Why do we measure it? We measure it because it can give us a clue onto what other markets might do. If the dollar is blasting higher, blasting upwards like it was here, this is what makes a bear market in equities and in crypto, and we saw that. And now it's kind of just been trending sideways since it pulled back and equities and Bitcoin and crypto started going higher. The markets like stable dollar strength. If it's just trending sideways, the markets like it. And so that's kind of what we have here. And maybe we don't get any sort of equities pullback until it maybe breaks trend or gets over this fib. I'm not sure, but the last few weeks of this upside has not translated to downside for equities. It's been the opposite. Equities have been powering higher. I have been thinking we were going to get a pullback for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I've been wrong about that the last 2 or 3 weeks. I was right about Bitcoin coming down and crypto coming down and the dollar going up, but that did not translate in the equities markets like I thought it would yet. Perhaps it's going to be a delayed sort of response where, the dollar might need to get to a certain point before equities start panicking a little. But we are really overbought here. We're way up here. This is just straight up again. But as you can see in bull markets, that can happen for some time, like back in here. And so maybe that's what we're going into. I still think that we could get a major pullback to the 21 EMA like this and like this before we go into a real sustained bull market. And so that's kind of what I'm waiting for right now. The 21 EMA has left the box that I wanted to buy in, right? And so we have these two major zones here where I've been looking for a pullback, and you can see that this is maybe a test of the all-time high. Back here we had that one red candle and then 3 straight up higher from that. So now that we're over R1, technically speaking, we should start aiming for R2, and that's quite a ways away. So we have to assume now that we are over R1 that we are going to R2 midterm to long term, until we maybe fall back below. And so in the meantime, we're just going to kind of see what happens. But if we get a retest of this R1, it might be worth taking a long or buying a couple dips. And then if we fall below, then just cutting them. But I'm gonna remain patient. I do think that a pullback will come eventually. You can see during this entire run, there were many of them, right? You had these big red candles. And so just whenever we see one of these big red weekly candles again, we'll buy some more, right? I'm holding on to what I have. We're doing really well since, October of 22, with what we purchased way back then. So now we're just going to hold on and wait for dips to buy more stuff. NQ is no different. It finished up over the R1 as well. And so technically we have to start looking for R2. You can see it's kind of starting the week right now above there with a little wick down and now starting to push a little bit higher again, but we could see some sideways action as the 8 EMA catches up. And the same thing kind of happened here. We had a lot of green, and then we had one big move to the 8 EMA and then up from there. And so really anytime we hit the 8 EMA or the 21 EMA, those are good times to buy in a bull market, which is what we are in. And so I'll just keep patiently waiting for that to happen. If we look at the Dow Jones, it's really hard to find levels when you're at all-time highs. Why? Because there's nothing back here to base it off of or compare support and resistance. So what you have to do is kind of just go back and measure other trends. And so I just measured the COVID dip here, and you can see the 1.618 is still well above. And so this would be the mid to longer term target this year for the Dow Jones. This is DIA, by the way. It's the ETF that trades the Dow Jones. And so 400 is a real possibility here. 500 is a real possibility on SPY. And QQQ, I don't know where that's trading at the moment, but the next major spot is around 19,000 for NQ itself. If we get into crypto and look at the USDT dominance, we have clearly tapped that trend that I pointed out several weeks ago, and we are starting to get that look that I pointed out that we could get several weeks ago, where it starts to look like this off the trend. And that's exactly what's happening. And now we have a close over the weekly 8 EMA for the first time in, like, I don't know, months, right? So it's been forever. This is a big deal. We actually tapped the 21 EMA and came back down. And so now we are approaching the 8 EMA again to start this week. And this is where I might consider taking a short on something. So as soon as it touches that, I might take a short on something and kind of just take a bet that maybe we're not going to cross that MACD here this week. If we do, then I'm wrong and we're just going to reject. Like 21 EMAs are no joke after a large retracement like this. So the first tap makes sense that it's going to reject that hard. The question is does it hold the 8 now? If it does, and then it starts moving back higher again, then we're going to start seeing these EMAs getting a little bit closer together as weeks go on, and it maybe starts to push up into this golden pocket area to 7.08 to 7.4%. This would bring Bitcoin and Ethereum and probably a lot of crypto down a lot further, which is what I am anticipating anyway. So you can see we sold up here around the 0.71, which is where I sold most of mine. And I didn't get my sell at 50K, and so I'm still just holding that. I didn't get what I wanted, and that's okay. It barely missed my line, if you want to zoom in here, but I did think that might have been the local top, and I still kind of do. We could kind of monkey around in the golden pocket some more, but I'm waiting to see if we get a close below the 8 EMA in any of these weeks. Again, we had one here, and then a move back up, and now a close back above, and you can see we are opening this week right on it. I mean, it's like it touched it, right? So the 8 EMA is a very good indicator to use. It's why I use it. And we'll see what happens. I'm not really doing anything here. I am still bearish in thinking that we can come down to this box. And I'm going to show you how I get this box on this drawing. And so I decided this week I wanted to do a little bit of a teaching lesson in how I draw fibs and how I use them a little bit. So in order to measure a trend, you just have to know two things. You have to know that if you are measuring a downtrend like this one, you have to start at the top and measure down, right? And I have modified my settings for my fibs to this regard, so you could pause the video when you watch the recording if you wanted to copy those, because those are not by default, right? So you just measure the downtrend from left to right. You're always measuring from left to right. You will never measure from like right to left. Like you'll never go this way. That's the wrong way to do it. So you just measure like you're reading a book. So this is the first reason why I am having this box here. Now, also what I want to do is draw this entire uptrend. Okay, and this is how you get fib clusters. And this is how you get major areas that you're interested in. So I've just measured this uptrend, and notice that I measured from left to right. Right? Now I want to come in here further, and I might be able to say that this is a top, right? I might. I can't quite yet until I see a close below the 8 EMA, but I'm just going to assume that maybe it is, right? And maybe it does go up and hit 50K and come back down and fill my sell order. I don't know. Maybe we get several attempts up there. If we go look at the last case, in the last market of this, you can see how many times this tried to get up here before ultimately coming down, right? And so we have that 786 touch, that 786 touch, you know, multiple weeks in a row where this is trying to come up off the 8 EMA. You can see we had one close here below the 8 EMA, and then another move to try to go higher, but it didn't make a higher high, right? It's a higher low, and then another close below, and then that's what started the downtrend. And so that is potentially what we might get with this as well. And so we might get a green week this week, just because that is the nature of how all of this works sometimes. So you might get another move up, but it doesn't make a higher high, or maybe it does and it does tap that 786. But ultimately, until we break above that 786 at 50K and close a candle above it, I am not convinced we won't have a bigger pullback. How it decides to get down into this zone, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know if we're just going to go straight there. I don't know if we're going to go up here like 4 or 5 more times before we come back down here. It doesn't really matter to me, because all I know is my plan is to dollar cost average from this spot down here all the way up to about here, right? All in this zone is where I want to buy, and I'll be patient and wait for it unless we close above that 786. If we close above that 786, okay, I'm going to be forced to buy it up here. But until then, I'm going to be patient because I think that we might get some more downside. So you can see that I've drawn 3 sets of fibs, and that gives me all of these support and resistance lines. And these are the areas where I want to put my buy orders in, right? Like, I want to buy again if we hit 37.3. If we hit 35, if we hit 32,675, those are the areas I want to buy and dollar cost average in. If I put my pivots on, you can see the weekly pivot is right here at this box. So that is why the top of my box is right there. And this is why the bottom of my box is right here. Notice there's nothing below this, right? This is just open space. There is a very big level right around 28.8, which is like right here. Okay, and this level is important because of previous data and because it's a very high volume profile area. So I do have a buy order way down here, just in case we wick down that far, but I don't think we will. I do think that we will stay up in this zone, but I know how important 28.8 is, and ultimately if that actually fails at any point in time on this retracement, then it's time to be careful. If 28.8 fails, I don't know what to think. That wouldn't be good, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I know this looks like a bunch of crap on here and a bunch of lines, and it might not look like you know what you're doing when you're doing this, but it actually is helpful because then you can come into the daily levels and you can start doing the same thing, and you can see how just in this range how well all of these levels are respected. I mean, you take off the pivots and you can see that where we're trading right now are these 3 levels, right? And so you can trade these levels. You can try to short when it hits that one and take profits when it hits here. Or if you get a close above here, you can take a long and try to take profits when you hit this level. These are all shorter term levels that you can use in the meantime to trade, daily or swing trade during the course of a week. Then you can throw your pivots on and you can say, okay, well on the daily we're back above pivot, so I have to favor upside, right? And so maybe I don't want to short that spot. Maybe I want to wait and see if we can close above it and get that daily bullish cross on the EMAs again, and that would give me more confidence in shorter term upside to this level or any of these pivots to take profits on a short-term trade. All right, so I hope that helps, and we are now going to look at Ethereum, Bitcoin, which is now not looking good anymore. So we get this big green candle through the EMAs. We get a doji top candle and then a big red candle right back down through them. Our EMAs are not getting close to crossing bullish again. On the daily, we're also bearish again, and so now we're looking at retesting this trend line one more time. It looks like pivot is at 0.053, and so I ultimately want to see it hold that spot right there. When you use confluence, you can take your fibs and you can say, okay, I want to draw this uptrend. And you can see that it's right in the middle of 2 major fibs. So we could get a wick down to the golden pocket, tap that trend line, and then ultimately close back above, or maybe we just hold the pivot, right? But I wouldn't panic until you get below 0.05142. That is when I would start to get a little worried about it. There's even a spot down here where you have the main 0.5 and the 786 in this same little zone here. So ultimately, this level must hold. If this level fails, which is 0.05, then Ethereum against Bitcoin might be doomed, right? I don't think that'll happen. I think we're just kind of consolidating down here for a long time before we make a real bullish move to the upside. But for now, I'm just going to dollar cost average at the points that I've indicated. And in the weekly outlook, I did put a link to where I am doing this in specific areas. This is not financial advice. I am just indicating where I plan on buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you can do whatever you want. So here, I am going to show you the CME chart. So I have my first dollar cost average spot filled, and I bought at 2200. When it hit, it just automatically filled me. I have these already in place at the levels that I've indicated in the weekly outlook channel and in my Groot's chart channel. If we continue to go lower, which I absolutely hope we do, because then it will fill all of my other entries. My ultimate entry is 1830 to somewhere around 1800, somewhere in that area. This is where I want to dollar cost average the most. If we can get this to come down even further, you can see the two major fibs at 2700-ish and 2200. It's a big range. Don't get caught with your pants down trying to leverage trade this without tight stop losses. It will wreck you. These candles are huge, right? We're not in the realm of these tiny little movements anymore. These are large movements, and they can continue to swing violently through these areas. So be careful. But we did close below the 8 EMA, which means now we can see further downside. Ultimately, 2200 needs to hold. If it fails aggressively, then we can see lower, down to 2000, and then down to 1920, and then 1830 to 1850. There's a gap down here that I think will eventually fill, mostly because I don't think we're going to leave that many gaps on the chart. There's one down here. I don't think it'll fill. I still don't think this one will fill either. These two might never fill. This one here I have hopes for and think that it will fill. It'll be a downtrend retest as well as a gap fill, and that's ultimately where I want to buy Ethereum some more. All right, let's look at total 3. So total 3, we noticed a while ago that we had a cross bullish on the weekly. What this means is that altcoins can start to outpace Bitcoin, right? And I said it might take several weeks for this to actually materialize. And the reason that I thought that was because the MACD is still well down under center. Every week we are getting a little bit closer. So we still might be a few weeks away from this really starting to move if it does. We want to see it stay above this 821, and so far it has. We've wicked down below it, and so far we've opened above it, and these are now bullish, technically speaking. The RSI is starting to get above 50. The average is not, and so we really want to see these start moving to the upside to have more confidence in altcoins, but I think we are on our way there soon. I'm wrong if we fall back below those and this crosses back bearish and we start seeing that MACD rolling back down to the downside. So we don't want to see that. If that starts happening, then I'm going to have to start thinking about selling some of my altcoins in the hopes to rebuying them lower, maybe down back. Maybe we need a third or fourth retest down here again. I don't know. But you can see how well that 0.5 has been respected. And let me get rid of the pivots and this other one so you can see that better. So that 0.5 is what I'm talking about. That's ultimately where you want to dollar cost average alts until it breaks. And then if it breaks, you can either hold on to what you have and then wait to buy some more when we hit the golden pocket, or in the hopes that we curl up from here and start making moves to the upside. If we do, then we have this main downtrend to break. And so there's a lot of upside here compared to the downside, and so I do think that altcoins are a good bet at the moment, at least until we see a close below this line again. That would give me a little bit of something to be afraid about. But for now, I think we're good. There's also divergence here. You can see that the RSI is pointing up, while this is kind of sideways, slightly pointing down. MACD is the same way. This is what we want to see for bottoms, and so I'm fairly confident that this is going to be the altcoin bottom, and that from here on out, we should get upside on altcoins as a whole. All right, I think that's all for the main event here. If anybody has any questions and or chart requests, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you'd like, also, you can drop them in the chart request channel, and I will get to them either at 8 a.m. or somewhere around 8 p.m., and that's fully up to you. What do we got? No one? No chart requests? Matic. All right, let's look here. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Matic. Okay, so it's still holding the 8 EMA on the monthly and holding the 21 on the weekly. Almost got down to that box I was looking for on that wick there. But I mean, it's ultimately still holding that 382 at 74 cents, right? So like this is major support. And until we see a close below 7392, we have to assume it's going to continue to be support. The EMAs are bullish, technically speaking. They are starting to point down. So over the coming weeks, if we start seeing this roll over and Bitcoin continues to come down like I think it might, then we could see the bottom of this triangle again where I want to buy more Matic. I am holding a position that's fairly like up here. I think I bought on this close over and then it faked me out and I didn't really have time to get out, and so I'm just going to hold it mostly because this area is pretty tight. I don't think I have, I don't think I'm risking a potential 66% drawdown, which would be, pretty bad. I'm more risking I guess it could be up to 41% drawdown, which is still pretty bad. But I'm willing to hold on to it because I think Matic will eventually get out of this triangle to the upside. So I'll dollar cost average down here in this box if I get it, and that'll significantly lower my average. And my goal is to get my average to be below this 382. And so I might have to buy almost more than double what I bought up here in order to achieve that, but I'm willing to do it if we get that movement down. If we get a movement up from here and we break over that 0.5, I will buy more up here as well around the same area that I bought before, and then my average will just have to be just under $1. But for now, I'm waiting. Cash. All right, so there's kind of this little rising wedge thing going on with it, which is a bearish pattern, and it's kind of resembling what Bitcoin's doing as well, and it's following Bitcoin. Whenever Bitcoin falls, it's kind of been starting to go with it. So it's not what I like to see when I'm picking an altcoin in what I think would be a retracement for Bitcoin coming. And ultimately, it hasn't cleared that 786 yet. You can also see it hasn't had a golden pocket sell-off yet either, where typically we would want to see a move up into the golden pocket, a sell-off, and then some support below and return back into here to get that pattern that we look for. And I haven't seen that yet, so I'm not buying any more at this moment, and I might consider it if we fall back down to the 618 and this bottom of this trend here. And then if ultimately we fall out of this wedge, then that's really bearish and will probably come down a lot further. So I might take profits on it. I think I bought somewhere down in this realm down here. It's sitting in a wallet somewhere. I got to go find it. And then I think I'm going to stake it in the Cosmos realm. I've started staking things lately, which I don't typically do, but it sounds fun. So yeah, until we can get over the 786, I would assume that this could make another move down where we could dollar cost average more. If we get over the 786, then you know the story, you know the drill. We're probably going to continue up, and the take profit area is like way the hell up here, which kind of seems crazy for something with this much supply. So I don't know if that happens. Sol. I have Sol right here. All right, so I was watching this over the weekend, and it broke trend finally. The EMAs aren't bullish yet, but they're starting to get there. And I don't know if it's just going to keep blasting higher to cross them or if we get a retest or what, but ultimately this is above pivot now, closed above pivot, closed above trend, and the EMAs are pointing up. So this is kind of like all signs pointing to another move up here after our 0.786 rejection. And this could be the sell-off that's all it takes, right? And then this can just continue higher. So right now, Sol's kind of a buy, unless we break down back below 94. Let's just call it 94 even, or the 8 EMA on the weekly, which is at 89.41. So anywhere in this vicinity here is where a pullback is possible. After breaking the trend, it could come and retest it down here around 89. That's where you might want to try to grab some more. With a stop loss maybe at the 6.8. If you're looking at the daily for a more shorter term position, I would try to get as close to where we are now with a stop loss like just underneath those EMAs, like right around 92. Let's see, there's no pivot there, so maybe use the 4 hour. Yeah, so 91.47 is kind of like the cutoff. And so if you see kind of how I analyze that, like I want to buy on this bullish move, retest of the trend line here. And then this 94.71 area kind of becomes where I want my entry to be if I can grab it. If not, I'll just, grab it higher. And then just understand that your risk is now to wherever your stop loss is down here at like 6%, right? So you can't leverage this 10 times and lose 60% unless you're, willing to use a small amount of capital, and 60% is okay. But these are just ways that you can manage your risk by measuring where your stop loss needs to be and only leveraging enough to where a 6% drawdown isn't going to kill you, right? So maybe like 2 times leverage. Can you handle 12% loss? That sounds a lot more reasonable than 60. So maybe you don't want to use too much leverage on that, right? And you can do the same thing with the bots too, right? Like if you can draw this stuff and see where the downside might take you and where the trade might be invalidated, then that can help you put in your own stops. Like I always urge people to learn first before just like blindly throwing money at stuff, because you can do so much better managing it yourself. And I encourage everyone to do that. So yeah, I think this is bullish. I would try to give it a long here. You might be able to take a scalp to 100 or even beyond to 104 as long as this holds. If it doesn't hold and it falls below the pivot here, then take a short and do the same thing. Short this, stop loss just back above trend again. Minimize the risk between your entries and your stop loss as close as you possibly can. And then your upside is a lot greater back down to 85, or your upside is a lot greater all the way back up to the 786. Right? Like, and this is the zone to try to do that. You don't really want to try to do that here in the middle of a zone, or maybe you want to short the retest of trend. You could do that as well. Like, those are the areas where you want to pick your spots and not just blindly throw money at stuff. True SMH. I can't chart SMH yet, but it is starting to look better. I've been kind of dollar cost averaging SMH a lot down in these dips under $1. And just kind of throwing little bits at it every day here and there. So I think I've amassed quite a few of these tokens by now, and then hopefully one day I'll be rewarded. But I can't chart SMH on here yet. I don't think they've added it, which kind of sucks. Yeah, see, it's not here. True. All right, so we can see here we are bullish on the 4 hour. We need to get over 16.6 cents on the short term. On the daily, we're back to bearish on that as well, and there's this spot around 19 cents that looks really important. So you can see it was resistance. Big green candle got us over, and now we've kind of been chopping around it, and now we're back down below. So you'll want to see a move back over 19 cents to be more confident. We can go back up and test 0.5 here. And really all I've done is just taken the all-time high over here. Actually, not the all-time high because it's got kind of like ridiculous to that, so I didn't use that. I just used the common wicks here as my top for my measurement. And then down to the all-time low. And that gives me these levels that are pretty well respected. And then ultimately this is my take profit spot that I would love to take profits on. So for now it's kind of just a hold, and I think one day it'll pop. A 0. Yeah, it fell back below trend. It's not great. So yeah, we got to get back above that. I really wouldn't touch it unless it broke back above that trend. And so just to draw that, you're just going to take those two peaks and just continue a line through them. And you can see how well respected it is as far as bullish, bearish bias. How, you close above below, retest several weeks, big move up, and now we're closing back under. There is a doji candle there on the weekly, which could be signaling some movement back upward, but I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable longing that right now. The dollar is showing that psychological support. So I suppose if you wanted to, you could take a shot adding some more here if you're on spot. And then your stop loss needs to be like 92 cents. And if it fails that, then it might be in trouble. But I kind of don't like it under trend. I'd feel a lot better if it got above again. So ask me again next week and we'll see where it is. And then I might have a better idea of what I would do there. Link. So it's still just piddling around here. And I got a bunch of lines drawn now in case we break one of these two major ones. But ultimately, 1383 to 1577 is the range that we are trading in. So Link likes to do a lot of sideways chop, and who knows how long this will continue for before we finally break to the upside. But I would just long 1380 and, take profits at 1577. I wouldn't necessarily short this, and it's because the weekly EMAs are bullish. And so knowing this, I would be much more prone to longing the bottom instead of shorting the top. So I would just long the bottom, take profits at the top, long the bottom, take profits at the top, and then when it finally does break over 1615 on a weekly candle close above, then you can try to hold on for longer. But until then, this is just trading in a range, and this is the range you should use to trade it. MNW. Has it done anything yet? Waiting forever. So I don't know how many retests of this trend I'm going to get before we finally move up. But we are still above the trend. So, and it's like riding that line, and maybe we need to test 95 cents again on that pivot before we make another move up. But I'm still holding out hope that eventually this will move. I like the token supply on this. It's like very limited. And so maybe all they need is like one little news story about some usefulness in their network in the real world before it moves up again. I did like it originally because of the narrative, in real world use. But since then it's kind of just hasn't really done anything. So maybe I move on. If we break 93 cents and we fall below the trend again, I'll just cut it and find something else. But I'm going to be patient and wait because I think that when it does move, it can move really well. ICP, I don't even know if I have that one on my list. It's another one that has very few tokens in circulation and can do really well. All right, so we've hit the 0.5, and that is our current resistance here. R1 and 1580, let's call it. That's where we got a break. It's still bullish and above the EMAs, holding the 382 here at 1056 and the pivot as well. Look at how well these line up. This is good confluence where you have like really good support, really good resistance. So we want to buy when it touches that spot, and we want to sell when it touches that spot, and then we don't continue until it holds and breaks a candle close above one of these two at the very least. Like if you get a close above R1, then cool, just hold on and try for more. Until then, trade the range. Atom. I'm starting to really like Atom. I feel like it is undervalued compared to the rest of the market, especially when I've kind of learned what they're doing now. I hadn't really been paying attention to narratives, and I recently started staking Atom and Celestia INJ. Like I've had INJ for a while, and I haven't staked all of what I just staked a little bit because I don't really want to lock it up too much, but I've staked a little bit, and I like their platform, and I like the fact that they've now actually become interoperable. You can actually now bridge from Ethereum to Cosmos, which is kind of incredible, to be honest. This is what they've been trying to achieve for a really long time. I don't know how long it's been available or how long I've been living under a rock on this, but I do think it's pretty cool. And so I think that this can do pretty well. It's bullish on the weekly. It's kind of just trading around this $9 to $12 zone for a while. And I'd like to see it hold $9. If we fail $9, then we could come down to retest the trend again. And then that's where I'll just buy more. But for now, I'm kind of just starting to accumulate Atom. You can see on the weekly, we are bullish and above center on the RSI and above center on the MACD. So this can now actually start to move upward, technically speaking. So I like it. I'm not too concerned about its movement over the last few weeks, considering what Bitcoin's been doing. So yeah, I like it. Pendle. Lorem is rich on Pendle. Let's see if it's doing what I thought it would do. I think I drew him this little squiggly line last time he asked me, and this is what I said I thought it would do. And so it's starting to do that a little bit. We got a little doji top looking candle here. This is a lot of indecision showing on the weekly. So we could get some more, piddling around before ultimately coming back to this trend line. And that trend line is where I would consider buying some more. That's the weekly. Let's do the daily. So yeah, I kind of think we might get a little bit of a distribution kind of look in here before it comes back down, similar to what we saw in this scenario back here. And then I would try to buy some more the closer we get to that trend line there. Daily pivots don't do us any good. Yeah, so maybe somewhere in the 150 to 170 range would be a good place to DCA that, if we could see it again. But yeah, ultimately this area up here is where the take profit level would be during the bull market. I don't think we're going straight there. I just think this is the potential of where Pendle can go during the height of the bull market itself. All right, any more questions / chart requests? Going once, going twice. All right, thank you guys. I'm going to post the synopsis of this weekly outlook in the weekly outlook channel for you to review, as well as the recording. If you watch the recording, please like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me with the YouTube algorithms, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great night, and I'll see you during the week.